should just, hey, hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on. Hey, y'all, I'm back. Y'all, I'm so beside myself, okay? I am so beside myself because I'm at work, and on my downtime at work, you know, you scroll through your phone and you see some news, right? Some news. And so I'm checking the news feed, and all in the news feed is about Pastor T.D. Jakes and former Pastor Duane Youngblood and Shirley, Cesar, and a bunch of the cast members from Tyler Perry shows, and on and on and on and on and on. And so it's a guy called Gospel Storm who's been on the Storm Monroe show spilling the beans on all of these entertainers, right? And he's in the industry. The man is in the industry. And he's telling on everybody. Not to mention, the facts is coming out anyway. The facts is coming out anyway about T.D. Jakes and Pastor Youngblood. Now, Duane Youngblood is a former pastor who is a sex offender, right? This man went on Larry King Live. Now, we know Larry King is dead and gone, right? The Larry King Live show has been over for a very long time. This former pastor was on the Larry King Live show. You can Google it, look it up, talking about Pastor T.D. Jakes sexually assaulting him, making advances towards him as a teenager, right? So then I find it interesting that the same man who was targeted by, he said, Pastor T.D. Jakes, right, grew up and also became a pastor, and he himself began targeting minors too. 15-year-olds coming about talking about doing, he can't deny it because he's already on the sex offender list, right? It was too many people that came forward. It was one of his mega churches in Pennsylvania, and he got busted. So now he's no longer a pastor, Duane Youngblood, because he is a known sex offender. And so now this man who went on Larry King Live years ago talking about what Pastor T.D. Jakes did to him has come out again and is talking about Pastor T.D. Jakes again, currently, in this current state, day and time, okay? So now Pastor T.D. Jakes, he didn't got health problems and falling out in church and everything, got to be rushed to the hospital because he said it's all the emotions and all the everything that's going on is just too much for him. It's too much, okay? But and so now Pastor T.D. Jakes has a lawsuit against Duane Youngblood, his fellow former pastor, for defamation of character. Now, of course, this is the same Pastor T.D. Jakes that been to a lot of the Diddy parties and stuff like that. But not to mention, now they're talking about Shirley, Cesar, Yes, gospel singer Shirley Cesar, Pastor Shirley Cesar. They say Shirley Cesar on the Storm and Row show now, okay? On the Storm and Row show from the Gospel Storm, coming from him, because he in the industry. He telling it all, okay? He said Shirley Cesar is a lesbian. I didn't know this. I didn't know this. Then he proceeded to talk about all of, well, a good amount of Tyler Perry cast members, I'm going to say allegedly on my end, that are swingers, which that's none of our business, okay? You know, like the House of Pain members and stuff like that. That I don't care about. I don't even think he should have spoke about that personally, because I feel like that's personal business. I feel like that's people's personal bedrooms. If you a swinger, be a swinger. As long as it's between two consent, well, shit, swinging is multiple people, right? As long as it's between consenting adults, I don't see anything wrong with swinging. If y'all adults and y'all freaky deaky like that, do what you do. It's your business. I don't care about that. So I really don't feel that he should have broadcasted their business like that. A lot of grown people have orgies and stuff, you know. A lot of stuff like that went on at the Diddy parties, they said, right? A lot of grown people have orgies. Like I said, as long as it's consenting adults, do what you do, because people are freaky. People like what they like. That's their business. I think when it involves minors, that's a problem. And I think when it involves drugs that people don't know about, like drugs that may be going in their drink, drugs going in baby oil. As a matter of fact, that's the Gospel Storm said that that's what they did. The pastor TDJ, they said you know, the anointing oil. The anointing oil. He said he would put the anointing oil on the head and bring them back to the office to have conversation. And then by then, the drugs probably done got in your system and you don't know what the hell going on and what you're doing. I don't have time. This is too much for my soul, y'all. This is too much, okay? Because now I'm still trying to grasp the whole Roman Catholic thing, okay? With all the priests, okay, I'm not going to say all. I'm not going to say all, because not all the priests are gay. But a good amount of priests that have been getting busted in the Roman Catholic Church, they're gay, okay? Okay, I'm still trying to grapple with them and the whole sexual assault of minors over there. Okay, now we come into the melanated church. Okay, the melanated people. We go into the melanated people church, and all of this stuff is going on over here. It's reminding me of the pastor Bishop Eddie Long, who was in that mega church in Georgia. How he got busted, you know, with sexual allegations, and all these people who were minors who grew up were coming forward and talking and pleading their cases and everything. This is another thing, y'all. Do they not know that these kids that they are messing with, these minors, don't they know that these kids are going to grow up one day, clearly, and start talking about this stuff? Just because you sexually assault a minor, molest a minor, whatever, when you know, they're going to eventually grow up and they're going to talk about this stuff. And you're not fearful of them talking about this stuff? Like what did you make them sign a non-disclosure agreement that they wouldn't talk about it? Or did you think that you put so much fear into their hearts that they would never talk about it? Did you threaten them? I'm trying to understand the logic behind this. That would be like me going out and doing something to a minor and never thinking that it's ever going to come back on me, never thinking that that minor is going to grow up and tell on me and talk about me, or go on national television and tell a story about what I did. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. How do they not think that these kids are not going to grow up and talk about this shit? Because you are traumatizing them. And whenever the traumatization, that sticks with you. I don't know why people think that when kids are kids that they're just going to forget things. People say that all the time. Oh, as a kid, they're going to forget it. Oh, they're a kid, they're not going to remember. Oh, there's a kid. I remember my mom always said that. Oh, it's a good thing that they're little. They're not going to remember. What do you mean? The more traumatic the experience that a child has, the more they remember it. Now, based on how hurtful it is, they will compartmentalize it in their mind. Like they will compartmentalize it and kind of put it in a part of their brain. It's kind of like imaginary locking key, right? You put it in a box, you put a lock on it, and it's like compartmentalized in somewhere in your head, right? So you don't have to think about it, right? But then eventually somebody or something comes along that can trigger that part of the brain, right? And then what happens when that part of the brain gets triggered? Then the key, the lock get broken off, the box fling open, what they call Pandora's box, the box flings open, and everything comes out. Everything comes out. These kids are traumatized. I just think look, I am understanding more and more why there's a saying that goes, the biggest hypocrites reside in the church. I am understanding this more and more and more, why people say that. Because apparently they do. Everything that the church preaches against is inside of the church, y'all. Everything that the church preaches against is inside the church. This is honestly what made me shy away from churches a long time ago. When I was little, I had no choice. What? Love in Oklahoma. Child, know about Oklahoma. I know y'all get a lot of tornadoes and stuff through there. But what made me lose my train of thought? As a kid growing up, I had no choice but to go to church, okay? I grew up in a church family, and that's just what we did on my mom's side. I'm not really sure, excuse me, y'all. I'm not really sure what they did on my dad's side. I'm not really sure what they did on my dad's side, like in regards to church and things like that. Like I know my dad said when he was growing up, he was a part of the Catholic Church. He said he was an altar boy and things like that. And I'm assuming that as a young boy, my dad was a part of the Catholic Church because he was probably following maybe his mom, my grandma. A lot of Mexicans follow the Catholic faith, right? And so I'm assuming that my grandma followed too, right? Is a part of her heritage, her culture. So maybe that's why she put my dad in the Catholic Church, But I never personally went to the Catholic Church. I grew up in a Methodist church, but church was always a part of my family on my mom's side. And my grandma made us go to church every Sunday, whether we wanted to or not. Church was mandatory. Like school is mandatory, church was mandatory. And so, and Bible study. But I always took issue with certain things with the church because I would ask questions and I would never get like full answers to it. You know what I mean? Like as a kid growing up in the church, you have questions. You want to know why this and why that and how this and how that, but where did this come from? But how did this just happen like this? And you got questions, right? And I never got straight answers. So it always made me like, side-eyeing the church, right? And then as I got older, I switched faiths, right? Like I grew up in the Methodist church because of my grandma. But when I became an adult, I went to a Baptist church, right? Got baptized and all of that stuff. And I enjoyed the Baptist church more because, the music was more upbeat. The pastor was more fiery. It was just more electric in the Baptist church than it was in the Methodist church. The Methodist church was very quiet. It was very quiet. I sang in the church. I grew up singing in the church. So religion has always been a part of my life, but I can honestly say that I never like bought into it because I always had so many questions that couldn't be answered. And because of that, it always left me just kind of like, I don't know about this. You know what I mean? And then a lot of stuff happened to me throughout my life that drew me more and more away from the church and drew me more into spirituality, because spirituality to me made more sense, because everything with church always seemed to be um, like love and light, right? That's the I'm not going to say the assumption, but that's how they made it appear to be, right? Churches of love and light, and churches angelic, right? And churches about purity, and churches about, the good people, and churches about, being a wholesome, well-rounded individual, right? And I'm not saying that church is a bad thing, it definitely gives structure and discipline, it does. However, there's the other side of the church that a lot of people don't talk about. Is another side of the church that stays hidden. It's another side of the church that is in the shadows for a reason. And that's the side that is coming out more and more and more, right? And that's the side that I grapple with, that I take issue with, right? Because it's becoming even more apparent to me that churches are definitely used for, like, to funnel money for money purposes, right? Churches are definitely used to make money, collect money. That's how you have pastors who are millionaires, right? And so money is a big part of it, right? Not to mention, with churches, they're like 501c3s, right? They're supposed to be, they fall under the nonprofit sector, meaning that the government funds the church, and everybody that attends the church, they're faithful donors, right? When you give money to the church, they're called tithes, right? So the church gets money from the government as a 501c3, but they also get tithes, which is donations from the people. And the more people that come to the church, of course, the more money, the more tithes, right? But then you also still get money from the government, right? Because I was wondering, how in the hell does the Roman Catholic Church, the Archdiocese in Los Angeles, how do they have $800 million to pay almost 2,000 victims? 800 million? I was like, where the hell are they getting all this money from? It's a lot of stuff. It's the shadow part of the church that people don't talk about. People is painting the church to be this euphoric, angelic thing, and it's just not. Everybody is talking about this shit now. It and the fact that so many people hide behind homosexuality in the church. Do you know what I mean? I am blown away, because so many churches preach against the LGBTQ movement. So many people, so many churches, pastors, priests, pastors, they preach against same-sex loving couples. They condemn them, they damn them to hell. Some of them even outright preach against women, women power, girl power, and like feminists and stuff. You know what I mean? Which I've recently discovered that the Catholic Church was prejudiced basically against people who cohabitated, people who are divorced, women having certain status in society. I'm like, damn, that's judgmental as hell. But now I see that Pope Francis is trying to kind of change some of those things. But I don't know if Pope Francis is trying to change some of those things because he's trying to roll with the tide because of where he see it's tiding towards. Do you know what I mean? And is it just talk, or is it real? Is it talk, or is it just talk for the moment? Yo, it is so many gay men in church that hide behind. It is so many gay pastors, so many gay priests that hide. And so now I'm like, okay, so is this the game? Was this the game all along? That because homosexuality was condemned and it wasn't looked at as favorable or acceptable or anything like that, so all of the people who were gay and lesbian or whatever, they went into the church house and hid behind the, what you call that thing? the white thing. You know what I'm saying? Hid behind that, hid behind the robe, hid behind the robe, hid behind the cloak, hid behind, cloaked themselves. And then saying that you're taking a vow of celibacy because you're going to dedicate yourself to God, when clearly that's not the truth. Now, I'm not saying that all nuns and all priests and all pastors are like that. We know that that's not true. But a good majority of them are. And they're hiding behind the church. Hiding behind the church while pushing out messages that is completely against what they actually believe. And that's why this other video that I came out with not too long ago, I forget the name of it, but I literally was like, whose game are we playing? Whose game are we playing? Even with regard to some people that push racist agendas, some of them that push racist agendas, some of them aren't even racist. They just kind of going with the flow. You can't tell me that you racist, but you laying up in melanated punani. You can't tell me you racist, but you have babies with melanated. You can't, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right? Like that book, The Segregationist Daughter. How he, you know, his biracial daughter was hidden because he was married and everything like that to a white wife and all that stuff. And he had a baby with his slave or maid, right? She was 16, he was 22 when they formed a relationship or whatever. But he still took care of his biracial daughter up until he died. And he was called a segregationist, the longest serving senator in South Carolina. It's a book out there called The Segregationist Daughter. And she said she had a very good relationship with her father. But people wouldn't think that because of the laws that he pushed in Congress. They were very racist laws. And he got a whole biracial child that he took care of all her life. And his grandkids, her kids. That's what I'm saying. Some people are pushing these agendas and they don't even believe what the hell they pushing. They just pushing it. And I don't know if it's like a mask they have to hide behind, a cloak they have to hide behind because they feel like if they don't, they're going to get trounced because of it. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like people that grow up in racist families and, you know, they have like other race friends, right? And they love their friends. And some of them might even fall in love with another race person, right? But their family staunchly preaches against, you know, the mixing of the races, and their family staunchly preaches against, you know, the superiority and the inferiority. You're superior over this race and blah, 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 blah. And this is how you should be, and this is how you should act and all that stuff. And then they grow up feeling suffocated because deep inside their heart, they don't feel that way. They don't feel that way. They don't think that way, and they don't like it, right? It's like that movie, The Help, with Viola Davis, when Viola Davis was a maid and she was raising this little white girl, right? And was it her or was it another one? Was it her? Was it Viola Davis's mom? What's that story where it was like a I think it was called The Help. And the white girl's mom, basically the slave was passed down. So you know how they pass slaves down in generations and generations? Like the kids inherited their parents' slaves or their parents' inheritance, their parents' house, their parents' business and stuff like that. So they would inherit the slaves that came along with it, right? And so the girl grew up around her mom's nanny, right? It was the same woman that raised her mom. And then the woman went on to raise her, right? And because she got used to the American Indian nanny loving her and nurturing her and guiding her and supporting her and encouraging her and being basically like a mom to her. When she grew up, she didn't look at melanated people the way that other races looked at people, right? She just didn't look at them like that. People in her family kept trying to preach to her that you need to be this way to them and you need to treat them like this and you need to do that. And she's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You can't tell me that this person is here to hurt me and that I need to act like I'm superior over this person. I mean, I know that there's laws and there's policies put in place to make me appear to be that way, but I was raised by a melanated woman and she loved the shit out of me. She loved the shit out of me. She was like my second mother. Basically, she said she was like her first mother. You know what I mean? And so she's like, I don't feel that way. I don't have a racist heart. So she helped these Black maids, these melanated maids, write a book about their racist experiences while being maids. And the movie is called The Help, right? So it just beckons to, there are some people that just grow up in these families and the families try to groom them and condition them to be how they grew up, but they really don't feel that way in their heart, But because of the times, especially back then, because of the policies and the laws and the times back then, they felt they were forced to abide by certain laws and certain rules. They felt like they were forced to do this and do that. And you know what I mean? And there were some people who fought against it. And a lot of those were called abolitionists. And they were the ones that were in Northern America or went north to Northern America, which a lot of prisoners of war, American Indian prisoners of war, they fled to the north, right? Towards New Jersey, towards New York, towards Washington, towards Virginia, to escape the persecution of the South, because that's where a lot of abolitionists helped them, right? So not everybody feels the same way, thinks the same way in their heart. Just because they grow up in a racist family doesn't mean that they're racist. You know what I mean? But this church thing, y'all, this church thing really has me, it really has me thrown for a loop, because I understand that due to the stigma of gay, right? Gay carries a stigma with it. It's funny because they always say that women have it easier, right? As far as the whole lesbian thing, because people love to see two women together. That's what the saying goes, right? So they say women have it easier, but that's not necessarily true either. Some people hate seeing two women together. There are a lot of men out there who get pissed off when they see two women together because they feel like, that's taken away from their pool of women that they could possibly be dealing with, right? And a lot of men take issue with women who may dress masculine, right? Because they feel like, oh, you're trying to be a man, right? Why are you dressed like that? Why do you walk like that? Why do you know what I mean? So they feel like they're trying to be a man, and they make fun of them, right? Oh, look, you're trying to dress like me. You're trying to, you want to be a man so bad, but you're not, right? And I think that also plays into the whole masculine and feminine energy, which there are some women who have more masculine energy. There are some women that have more feminine energy. There are some women that have a good balance of both. And the same thing with men. There are some men who have more feminine energy, and there are some men that have more masculine energy, or a balance of both. That's why you see some men that are flamboyant, because they have more feminine energy, right? And then you'll see a man who's very masculine. Like sometimes people get confused by a masculine man being gay, because they're like, oh, you're very masculine. I didn't think that you were gay, but he's just masculine, right? And a lot of times you'll see flamboyant men with masculine men. You know why? Because therein lies the balance. Therein lies the balance of energies, right? Therein lies the balance of energy. Just like if a man and a woman were together, right? Sometimes the man is more feminine and sometimes the woman is more masculine. But therein lies the balance. If you have, you know, and then some people might take issue with that and be like, oh, the woman is supposed to be 100% feminine. She's not supposed to be masculine in her full on masculine energy. And he's a man. He's supposed to be full on in his masculine energy. He's not supposed to be in his feminine energy. But you'd be surprised. There are some men that, you know what I mean? Because we have both masculine and feminine energy. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I exert my masculine energy. And sometimes it's not because I want to, it's because I have to. Right? It's because I have to. You're not going to get very far being fully in your feminine energy. Do you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you know, feminine energy is, as they say, is docile and submissive and soft and, you know, demure, right? You know, and you can't be that way all the time, especially in business. In business, you can't be like that all the time. You get trounced. You have to exert some masculine energy. You have to. You have to. And with guys, you know, this is a long discussion, y'all. We can go on and on about this, but to make a long story short, I am taken aback by, you know, everything that's happening in the church house. I'm taken aback by how shadowy a lot of the church is. I'm taken aback by how a lot of gay men hide in the church, and a lot of lesbian women hide in the church. I'm taken aback by how they constantly push forth lies to the public, and the public buys into it, thinking that it's truth, and it's not. I'm taken aback by how there are literal gay men and lesbian women who are passing as heterosexual couples in the church house, and they are portraying to the public that they are heterosexual, and they're not. I'm taken aback by, like, I'm just taken aback by it. And I think the only reason why they keep the charade going is because it's been a charade for so long that it's almost like they don't even know how to stop it. It's like a roller coaster that goes on and on and on and on. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we stop this thing? How do we get off this thing? Or a train, right? A speeding train. How do we get off this thing? How do we slow it down? How do we stop it? It's been a constant charade for so many decades, probably centuries. And it's like, how do you stop it? How do you stop it? I think the truth coming out about a lot of these pastors, a lot of these priests, a lot of these nuns, a lot of these church folks, I think the truth coming out about it is what is slowing it down a little bit. Because the more the truth comes out, the more people are privy to it, the more people are going to start turning away from the church, because people have already started turning away from the church. This is stuff that's been happening over the years. More and more people have fallen off from the church. They have. And of course, the church don't want that because they want their base. They want their base of followers. They want to ensure that money flow come in. They want to ensure, because, you know, it's a lot that come with that, you know, not just money. Well, money is the main thing, right? But, like, you know, book deals and speaking engagements and, you know, traveling engagements and maybe some TV shows, radio shows. It's all kind of shit that come with that. Especially when you are the head of a mega church. Yeah, you're gonna be up in movies and around celebrities and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a lot that comes with that. It's a whole empire being built. What I will say is that, good evening, don't follow man. Don't follow the church. Yeah. Yeah. Jesus says, follow, read the Bible for yourself so that you won't be deceived by. Yeah. But a lot of times people don't read the Bible, right? Um, I've always been told that the Bible is like a book of evil. And I don't I don't know why people say that, but um, a lot of people don't read for themselves. I think for some people, they feel like it's easier to follow a third party. The thing is that if you're a pastor and you're going to, what is it, theology school or seminary school or whatever, right? To get whatever education or certificate that you need to get in order to be this pastor in church, the public is looking at you as some kind of authority figure. They're looking at you, they're putting you on a pedestal, kind of like how people put the Pope on the pedestal. They're putting you on a pedestal because you have gone to the theology school or you've gone to the seminary school and you've gotten this education that a lot of people haven't gotten, right? Which is supposed to make you a master or leader in faith. So a lot of people in their mind, they're thinking, well, I don't need to read the Bible fully, or I don't have to understand the Bible fully because I can just go to church and have the pastor interpret it for me. And of course, I trust the pastor because he's the pastor, right? So they put them, they're already on this pedestal. And I think a lot of them know that. They know that they're already on a pedestal. And so that's why it's easy to deceive so many people, because a lot of people don't want to read or don't like to read. They'd rather get third-party information. And so, in that aspect, to each his own, right? Because what a lot of people are discovering is how to make money in those cases, right? People not reading for themselves, people relying on third-party entities, that's like a loophole for pastors and priests and nuns. And that's a loophole. That's a money loophole. It's almost like they're banking on people not reading themselves and not researching for themselves, not, you know what I mean? Because then that means the more that you don't do that, the greater chance that we get to deceive you. And the greater chance you buy into what we're saying. And the greater chance we get to make profit off you, bank off of you. So to a certain extent, you kind of can't get mad at the player who's playing the game. It's a hell of a game. It's a hell of a game. It's a hell of a game. Woo, it's a hell of a game, okay? And so you kind of can't get mad at the player for playing the game, And so the person that's being played, it's kind of like, well, shame on you, right? Shame on you. But everybody comes around to it in their own time. Oh, you are? You're a student in a Bible university? You tell people to follow God? Yeah, well, God is within all of us anyway. God is within all of us. And so, following God is like following your intuition. You know what I mean? It's I recognize that we can't all be peace, love, and light. That's just not normal, right? Because we all have two sides, right? Two sides of the same coin, right? We have our shadow side and we have our light side. So I recognize that we're not always going to be love and light, right? There are going to be some times when we may be judgmental. There are going to be some times when we may get angry. And there are some times when we may talk out of turn. There's going to be some times when we, need to put somebody in their place if they're messing with you. You know what I mean? That, like, it's just ridiculous to think. It's kind of like the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King concept, right? Where Martin Luther King, it's almost like he wanted to preach the love and light only, right? So the nonviolence movement, right? So it's like we're going to go in these places and we're going to take up space and we're going to allow the hatred to be seen all over the world while we practice nonviolence taking up space, not doing anything to anybody, not hurting anybody, just sitting there taking up space, right? Yeah, we can get hit upside the head with a bat. They can throw dogs at us. They can set us on fire. They can throw water in our face and all of this stuff, right? But we're still just going to practice nonviolence, right? Which is the whole peace, love, and light aspect of it, right? Now, Malcolm X was like, I was about to F that. You know what I mean? Malcolm X was the shadow side of it, right? I mean, he was light, but he was the shadow side of Martin Luther King, you might as well say, right? He didn't believe in that. Malcolm X said, oh no, I believe in fighting. I believe in defending. I believe in standing up. He said, you practicing nonviolence? He like, I'm practicing violence. I'm going to have a gun or 2 or 3 or 4. You know what I mean? I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to defend my family. If they come at me, if they attack me, if they attack my wife, if they attack my kids, it's going down. Okay. So it's kind of like that, right? The light and the dark, but both make sense. You know what I mean? Both of them make sense. Both of them make sense. But at the end of the day, I don't think that we can all be peace, love, and light. I don't. So how the church is made to seem to be this whole euphoric and love and light, angelic, you know, all of that stuff. There's the dark side to it. There's the shadow side that's been hidden like under a rock. And that rock, that boulder has been kicked over. It's been kicked over. And all of the shadow that's been hidden is coming out. And it's going to have to balance itself with the light, is what it's going to have to do. But it's going to have to spill and purge, and it's going to have to spill out like pus before the wound heals. You know what I mean? It's a lot going on, and it's a lot coming out. Like that Bishop Eddie Long dude, right? And he's not even here anymore. He died. He died after all the allegations about him came out. But like you said, don't follow man, follow God. But there's always going to be people that follow man. And as long as that happens, that's the loophole for them to bank. And like I said, it is what it is at the end of the day, right? It's kind of like, don't hate the player, hate the game. And if you play in the game and you mad because you get played, can you really be mad at the player? Can you really be mad at the player? You kind of can't. But I guess you can if you're being lied to. That's the thing. If you're being lied to, I guess you kind of can be mad, because I didn't know all of this. Like, I knew about the Roman Catholic Church because it's talked about so much. It's always talked about. It's always something going on over there. It's always scandals and all kind of stuff in that church, right? But I think it affects people majorly, even in a more major way, when like idols are attached to it, like idols that people actually looked up to. You know what I mean? The people that you rush to the movie theaters to watch, the people that you rush to turn on the TV to watch, the people that you rush to the church to hear preach, you know? And the crazy thing is you can't take away from none of these people's talents, gifts, abilities, skills, because they all bring something amazing. Like, they talking about Shirley Cesar being lesbian. Okay, she still brought a lot of amazingness, whether she lied about her lifestyle or not. They talking about Tyler Perry, and it's like, okay, but he still brought a lot of amazingness, whether he's gay or not, right? They talk about Pastor T.D. Jakes. They talk about, I mean, these people have magnetized people to them. And I'm sure they got a leg up in doing it, you know, because there are some people I feel that are purposely pushed in our faces whether we want them to be or not. Like the media, there are specific people that the media purposely pushes in your face over and over and over, because they want us to get used to seeing them over and over. It's like because they want us to accept them. You're going to accept this person. I don't care if you say you don't want to, you're going to accept this person, right? And the ones that they don't want us to accept anymore, the ones that they feel they want to do away with, or they want to kick to the side for whatever their reason for doing it, those are the ones they pull back from the media. And you don't see them as much anymore. You don't hear about them as much anymore. I can mention a few celebrities where I'm just like, where they at? Where they at? Why they not talking? Why they not on camera? Where are they? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, why are they not out in the forefront as much anymore? Did they do something bad? Did they do something, something that wasn't up to par for the society? So now they're being pulled back. We shall all stand before the judgment seat of Jesus. I mean, look, everybody. And I guess that's why we're told to, try not to hold grudges and to forgive, not for others, but for ourselves, so that our hearts are light as a feather, and, try to stay as positive and, and peaceful and stuff. But I do believe in standing up for yourself. Like, I believe in some of the things that Martin Luther King preached about, but I also believe in some of the things that Malcolm X talked about. You know what I mean? I definitely believe in defending yourself. That's like the American way, right? The Second Amendment, right? The First Amendment. It's a lot of ways to defend yourself, not just from talking guns. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think while on Earth, this is deep. It's just so deep. It's like we're all here for a reason. Clearly, we're all here for a reason. If evil is here, it's here to do its job. If good is here, it's here to do its job. And at the end of the day, evil isn't going to stop because it's going to do its job. Growing up in church, all I ever heard was, we got to wash out the bad and, be as good as possible. You got to wash out the evil. But it's like, I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if it's possible to wash out evil, because it exists, and it exists for a reason, right? I think we just need to be able to discern what is evil, who is evil, and, how to maneuver around it, through it, while we're here. You know what I mean? Because some people, may not really know, may not fully understand how to do that. And then they can fall prey to it, right? And so it's sad, man. Life is interesting. I always say that life isn't bad. Life isn't hard, right? I always say life be lifing, right? Life is here for us. It's the players in life that make things hard, that create the obstacles, the insurmountable, mountains, boulders for us to get over and around. It's always people that do that. It's not life. Life is just life. It's people that purposely make things hard for you, that put things in your way, that try to take you down, dim your light, put your light all the way out. It's people that do those things. So I can go on and on about this. Like, it reminds me of the Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche's book, Good, Bad, and Evil. That's what it reminds me of. That's what it reminds me of. It was like he was saying, those are the three in the world: good, bad, and evil. And Nietzsche always said in his books that all he wanted to be remembered as is a good human. He said, that's it. I just want to be remembered as a good human. I was like, wow. He said he don't want to be remembered as a bad human or an evil human. He want to be remembered as a good human. And he said that because he spoke on how his people, created basically blasphemy by what they did to the Bible. I was like, ooh. And his people turned on him because he was telling on them. His people railed against him. Oh, they were mad at Nietzsche. His people, okay, in Europe, they railed against him because they didn't appreciate him telling on them. But he did it anyway, because he said, I know that what they are doing and what they've done is wrong. So it almost goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I was like, there are people who are raised in racist families, but it doesn't mean that they're racist because they don't have it in their heart to be that way. There are people that have different race friends. There are people that fall in love with different race people. And they just don't see it the way maybe an elder in their family sees it, that tried to groom them to be that way, condition their mind to be racist, right? They don't see it that way. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. I think Nietzsche was just one of those people that was just like, no, I don't see it your way. And I don't think that it's right what you're doing. And I don't think that this should be happening. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'm going to work to make people aware of what's going on. And after it's all said and done, I just want to be remembered as a good human. He says it in a lot of his books. So it's interesting. I always tell people I had a love affair, like a 7-year love affair with Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche and his books, his writings. His whole life was just so fascinating to me. And I read like a couple paragraphs of his life and was hooked. And I couldn't stop reading about him. And I ran to Barnes and Nobles and bought every book I could find on Nietzsche. I was just so fascinated by him. Later on, though, I think I learned that he was a gay man or whatever. Not that that matters. I don't care about that. But I think later on, I discovered that he was a gay man. And honestly, that probably played a bit into why he was the way he was, too. Because his father was a Lutheran pastor. Okay, married to his mom. And I believe they were against all of that. You know what I mean? And so I think that is what also made him kind of take a different stance on some of the things that his family was for that he was against. It's interesting. You know what I also thought was interesting? And I thought this at a real young age too. Like I was very young. I was a teenager. I always thought it was interesting because like I said, I grew up in a church, right? And as far as I know, in a lot of the churches that I went to, a lot of pastors, if not all of them, preached against homosexuality, right? Just fierce against homosexuality, against the LGBTQ movement, against it. But then I saw that the rabbis were the only ones that I saw that weren't against it. And I found that so fascinating. I was like, wait a minute. The Methodist church pastor, the Baptist church pastor, the Catholic church priest pastor, all these other churches are against homosexuality. Why is the rabbi not against it? I thought that was absolutely fascinating at a very young age. And I don't think I still find it fascinating because I understand a lot of it. You know what I mean? But when I was growing up, and because I was, grew up in a church, that was always really fascinating to me. I was like, how come they accept LGBTQ and all these other churches don't? All these other pastors don't? Why are they the only ones that is accepting of it? It's interesting. So it's very interesting. I have a lot of questions about a lot of things. But what's interesting is I also have the answers, which means that I just want to talk about it. It really means I just want to talk about it, right? But because I want to know if anybody peeped what I peeped. Do they agree? Do they know more people that know? You know what I mean? So, but I'm not going to get into any of that right now. You might be wondering, what are you talking about? What do you want to talk about? A lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. But I also believe that you shouldn't talk about everything. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. But yeah, this whole church thing, man, the hiding, the homosexuality behind the pulpit, it is so fascinating because it's like y'all preach one thing from the pulpit and behind the scenes, y'all are that. It's kind of like my point of view videos that I did when, what did I call them? I called when they say it's you, but it's really them. Ooh, I have point of view videos where the title is literally when they say it's you, but it's really them. It's kind of like that, this whole churchdom thing. I just made up that word. I don't even know if churchdom is a real word, but yeah, it's interesting. This is the kind of stuff like that intrigues me. This is like mental stimulation. I'm always intrigued about what word am I looking for? I'm always intrigued by I guess the unknown. I'm always intrigued. I guess the unknown. Or what may be known, but a lot of people just don't know. Because people always talk about things that people don't know about. And then when people discover, then they get new eyes, right? They get new eyes about it. And they're like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. I didn't see it like that. I wouldn't even have thought, right? But yeah, it's interesting. Life is interesting. We are all students, but a lot of us are also teachers. But we are always students of life. There's always something to discover. There's always something to learn. And that's what I love the most about life. There's always something to learn. I love learning. One of my mottos is learn something new every day. Every day, learn something new. And I wholeheartedly believe that, and I stick to that. I'm always learning something new every day. Just like, woo, that's that brain stimulation. But yeah, I get off on stuff like that. I get off on that. It's like I get off on it. It's like a high to me, right? Learning is a high to me. But yeah, so I've been on here for anybody have any questions? I appreciate your comments, Mike. Oh, wait, I called you Mike like I know you, Michael. I got real comfortable. I got real comfortable. That's so funny. That's cool that you're a student in Bible University. Wait, when you say Bible University, is that really a university, or do you just, it's just a name you call it because you're like into the Bible right now or something? And if you're into the Bible, Michael, are you into all versions? Are there specific versions that you're reading only? Because you know there's the New Testament, there's the Old Testament, there's the King James version, there's the old Hebrew version, there's, you know, my God. And because the Bible has been rewritten a gazillion times, it's like one time, it was years ago, I turned on the TV and I turned to C-SPAN. A lot of people don't watch C-SPAN. I think that's like a nerd thing. It might be kind of nerdy. Is watching C-SPAN nerdy, y'all? Whatever. I'll be a nerd. But yeah, I'm kind of a nerd. But so I was watching C-SPAN years ago. And when I was watching it, I saw congressmen voting on what to put in to the Bible, like what to rewrite, what lines to rewrite in the Bible, and what to take out. When I tell you my jaw dropped, I was like, oh, I was like, they rewriting the Bible right here on TV, but it was on C-SPAN. Not many people watch C-SPAN. C-SPAN is probably considered a real boring channel because they literally just talk about passing laws and like revoking certain things, and you know what I mean? So if you're not into politics and if you're not into laws and policy and stuff like that, that would be boring to you, right? But I was intrigued by it. But I just happened to turn the TV on and I saw them. He was like, we should, you know, they were voting on what to take out of the Bible and what to put in, what to reword, I said, all right, ever since that day, and that, I think I was like, how many years ago was that? That might have been about 20 years ago. Ever since that day, that's what made me really start looking at the church differently. And that's what really made me start looking at the Bible differently. And that's what also made me start really researching about the Bible and about things that were put in and taken out and when specific things were put in. Like I found out that the word homosexual was written into the Bible in 1947 by a German guy. I forget his full name, but I know his name begins with the letter V. I forget the full name, but his name begins with the letter V, and it's a German guy. Homosexual was written in the Bible in 1947. I kid you not. I kid you. I was like, so I was really in, and especially when I went to college, like I was just in the library, like I want to know what the hell is going on, you know? Some versions of the Bible shouldn't be on the market. People put out versions of the Bible for money. It's always a money. Didn't I just say it is always a money game? It's always a money game. That's why I said it's too much money. You know, they find them loopholes. But in their mind, don't hate the player, hate the game. So, I mean, but what are you going to do? Right? It's like having original products. It's like you being an artist and putting your original products out, and then you have some other artists who got their eye on your work, and then they, what do they call them, sharks, and then they kind of they copy your work, and then they put out a bunch of copies, and then the market gets saturated with a bunch of copies, and to the point where people can't recognize the original from the fake, which, you know, makes sense of why the whole trademarking and patents and all that stuff came into play. Makes perfect sense. But I read the King James version of the Bible. That's the one? King James. Okay. Is that the only one? The only version you read? King James version. And it's, you know, and I also think a lot of people shy away from the Bible because of the, how do you say it? Because of the, linguistic? Is that the word I'm looking for? Linguistic. Is that even I know what I mean. the lingo, the rhetoric, I think people shy away from it because of how it's written. Like, I think a lot of people would shy away from a lot of Nietzsche books because of how he writes, how he speaks and writes. It's, I think it can kind of be compared to the Bible a little bit in like the way it sounds. But I think people would shy away from his books because of that. I also read the English Standard Version. Okay. So do you think what a lot of people think, that the Bible is a book of evil? A lot of people have said they feel the Bible is a book of evil, a book about evil. What's your take on it? Do you think it's a book about evil, a book of evil? I haven't read the whole Bible. So I'll be honest and say that, some Psalms I've read. I know there's a specific Psalm, some Psalms I've read, but, and I guess the main, what is it, the Corinthians? What is that? Don't get me started. I'll be sitting here thinking for a minute. But regardless of, the Bibles or anything, I think that, people should know the bare minimum, which is, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not, you know what I mean? But we know that happens anyway. So it's not a book of evil. It tells us how to have a relationship with Jesus. Okay. Now, and why do you believe that Jesus existed? Why are you so sure that Jesus existed? When I started my company, Urban IP Consultant, which I would just consult with businesses on like intellectual property and stuff, right? Years ago. I ran across this one woman who was of Mormon faith, right? And I was really fascinated by the fact that she was Mormon. And she was like, "Well, why are you so fascinated that I'm a Mormon?" I said, "Well, because Mormons didn't let melanated people, quote unquote Black people, quote unquote African American people, quote unquote American Indian people, they didn't let melanated people into the Mormon church until 1978." And so I was like, "So what made you choose to be a Mormon faith?" I was like, 1978 wasn't that long ago. Like, they literally just started letting melanated people in the church in 1978. So I was just really, and she kind of looked at me like, how do you know that? But it's like I said, it's because I researched a lot. I read a lot because I had a lot of questions that it seems like pastors could not answer, which made me give the church a side eye, because they couldn't answer my questions. You know what I mean? So I went on that's what I do. I just go on a research adventure and I read and I, look up a lot of stuff. But she was shocked that I knew that. And then I said to her, "Why do you follow the Bible so much when," what did I say to her? I said to her, "How do you know that everything started with Adam and Eve?" I was like, "That doesn't make sense, does it?" I was like, "Because everything started with Adam and Eve, then that means everyone is like, what is it? Like," I said, "wouldn't that be incest or whatever? And then wouldn't everybody that they produce have like a lot of problems and issues and, because we all know that when the blood is really close, like if you having sex with your cousin, or you having sex with your brother or your sister, you know what I'm saying? When the blood is close like that, a lot of times when you produce a baby, that baby comes out with a deformity, with some type of you know what I mean? Something is not right, right? And I know back in ancient times, a lot of times they did used to have sex with family because either they wanted to keep like wealth within the family. So they felt like in order to keep wealth within the family, that means you had to marry your cousin or your brother or your sister to keep wealth within the family. But then the kids came out with like deformities and sicknesses, ailments, and things. And so they didn't live long and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's why they started moving away from incestuous relationships, and they started, looking at other people because of stuff like that. Like I would watch slavery movies and I would literally hear like the people in the big house, saying, "Oh, your cousin is coming. He wants to talk to you about your hand in marriage." And I'm like, did they just say her cousin? Like, did they just say her cousin? But I'm like, is it not that many people that they can choose somebody from somewhere else, or is it just family? Like, I don't know. I know that stuff still happens today though. Like I know incest still happens today all the time. You know what I mean? It was a guy on YouTube who was literally like, well, we live out in the sticks. It's real rural out here. It's not a lot of people around. And when you want to have sex, you just walk down the hallway to your cousin's room and hop on top. I said, oh my. Okay. Oh my. So that stuff definitely still happens today. It's interesting. I don't even know how I got on that topic. I don't know how I got on that topic, but okay. It's interesting. Like I said, because of the whole Adam and Eve thing. And I was like, do you believe that? And when this is the lady that I'm talking about that's melanated, that is of Mormon faith and was going to the Mormon church. And I asked her, are you going to the Mormon church? They just allowed melanated people in 1978, which wasn't that long ago. But she looked at me and she said, well, the Bible is nothing but a lot of stories. And she looked at me and said it like that. Well, the Bible is nothing but just, a book of a bunch of stories. And I was like, I took heed to what she was saying because of how she was saying it. I was like, stories. So I'm not saying that there isn't some truth to the Bible. Clearly there's truth to it. But I also know, like I said, it's been rewritten so many times. And like I said, just seeing that C-SPAN episode where Congress was literally voting on what to put into the Bible and what to take out, what verses to put in, to take out, to rewrite, that blew my mind. And that's what made me really start looking at the church differently, start looking at the Bible. I was like, damn, I was like, I thought they said there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. I thought they said there was supposed to be a separation of church and government, right? That's what I thought they said. But it's not true. It can't be true when you got congressmen voting on what verses to take out the Bible and what to put in and what to, change around in order to, make it interpret what it is they want it to mean. And so when Pope Francis recently came out saying that, he feels the shadow side of the church needs to be discussed, and we need to, delve a little deeper into the ancient histories and do an overhaul of the church history and seminaries and all of that stuff. And because he said, and we also need to take away the whole angelic concept of the church. And it's almost like he wants to unravel the truth. It's almost like the Pope wants to uncover a lot of the stuff because it's being uncovered anyway. It's being uncovered anyway. He said he wants to dig deep and talk about the people that were not talked about as much, the people that were casted aside as if they didn't belong, as if they weren't a part of, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, really? Wow. You know? So he's going kind of deep with this. And he said he doesn't care, you know, how dark it has to be, because, you know, it's just, it is what it is. The church has a dark past and clearly present. Clearly present. So God says don't add or take away from his words, but they're doing it. They've been doing it. They've been doing it for centuries. So what are you supposed to do about that? They've been doing it for centuries. It's how it's like population control. It's how you control the population with that book. That's how it's always been, right? That's why there's so many different religions and stuff, because it's like population control. It's like how you know, control the population. And if, you know, and they don't like, if, you know, you have the people that veer off from it, I guess you would call those people free thinkers or spiritualists or whatever, you know what I mean? You know, they want you to kind of conform and be a part of one of the groups, you know? But that's the control part of it, right? But when it's just a lot of questions you have, and it's just a lot of stuff that's not adding up. See, I was one of those people, like, this something ain't adding up here. Something just, I tell you something just ain't right. So that's me. Something ain't right. Okay. And, you know, and you want me to sit here and just believe everything that's coming out your mouth because of the title you hold. Not you, Michael. I'm talking about, you know, like in general, pastors, priests, whatever. You know, they want you to believe everything, but it's like, but at the end of the day, don't hate the player, hate the game. If a person wants to know Jesus and have a relationship with him, he will reveal himself to you. Okay. Wait, I asked you, you didn't answer my question, Michael. I asked you, how do you know that Jesus existed? Do you only know this because of the book? Just like when they talk about Moses and stuff, and then you have people that say Moses never existed. How do we know Moses existed? Just like the lady that's a part of the Mormon faith. And she looked at me and said, well, you know, the Bible is nothing but a bunch of stories. You know what I mean? So, you know, going by the Bible is like, in my opinion, going by the Bible is like going by something ancient that was relevant in ancient times. Some of the stuff still holds true, but it was like it was relevant in ancient times. And that's another thing that Pope Francis said. He said that he wants to get all of the priests up to date with what is currently going on now in 2024 and beyond. He said because a lot of what they're learning in seminary school, the old church history, is from ancient times, from eons ago, how it was back then. But clearly things are a lot different now, right? So he wants to modernize. That's why he wants to do an overhaul of the church seminary. He wants to modernize. He wants everybody to play catch up to where we are now. And he said he doesn't want people to interpret the Bible, you know, for what they want people to think. And he said he doesn't want priests to like create imaginary tales and made up, you know, stories and stuff like that. He said he wants it to be curtailed to how the world is now and not how the world was eons ago. You know what I'm saying? And so it almost sounds like he wants to create a new version of a Bible. And I'm just thinking about this now. I didn't think about this before. It almost sounds like the Pope wants to create a new version of the Bible and construct it in such a way that it's modernized, but it just has modernized rules. That's why he wants to do an overhaul. It's almost like rewriting textbooks. Like information in textbooks, history books and stuff like that. You know, the school books and stuff. And then when kids get them in school and it's not the old history, it's modernized history or new. So some of the things he's saying about what he wants to do sounds great. I definitely agree with the Pope when he's talking about, you know, women's rights and how there should be reform there, because some women are subjugated to certain rules, or, you know, they need more of a role in church, or they need more of a role in just society as a whole, as, you know, leadership roles and stuff like that. I appreciated him speaking on that and saying that. I also appreciated the Pope talking about unconditional love versus conditional love, and how we need to kind of do away with the conditional love, because that's like the hurtful love. And I think the reason why he said that is one of the reasons why now he's saying, I want to welcome everybody to the church. We're not going to no longer disregard couples that cohabitate but are not married. We're no longer going to disregard people that have been married but divorced. We're no longer going to disregard, like, because he was really on the LGBTQ train first. Like, he was really pushing for that reform, pushing for same-sex marriage, and pushing for the priest to marry same-sex couples, and pushing for the priest to accept the same sex. He was really pushing that agenda real hard. But there was some melanated priests in the Catholic Church that said, we ain't having it. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. And they are keeping a firm stance. Those melanated priests, they're keeping a firm stance on that. They said they're not doing it. They're not marrying same-sex couples. That's what they said. You can look that up. But so now the Pope has switched from that stance to accepting all people, everybody, you know, everybody is welcome. No judgment, no conditional love anymore. Now we're going to be accepting of everybody. And like I said in another video, I was like, wow, I didn't even know that the Catholic Church was so judgmental like that. I didn't know the Catholic Church was like disregarded people like that. Because growing up, going to church, I never knew what couples cohabitated, or, you know, what person was divorced, or what person was gay, or what person was lesbian. None of that ever crossed my mind. And honestly, I didn't care. They were coming to church. They were part of the church community. They were coming there for prayer, for worship, like everybody else. And as long as you treated everyone with respect and was kind and courteous to everyone, you know, like, who cares what you do in your bedroom, or who you got divorced from, or if you're married or not? Like, who cares? That's your personal business. It's almost, it almost pertains to how they say government being in women's vaginas. Government need to stay out of women's vaginas. As a matter of fact, the current president-elect Trump, his wife Melania, she's on TV literally saying that government need to stay out of women's vaginas. It is my right to do with my body what I want to do. right? But it's almost like the Catholic Church was really dictating a lot of the judgments and the labels that was placed on people, which caused divisiveness amongst people, right? Because if you're pointing at people and saying, you're gay, so you're bad, you're lesbian, you're bad, you live together in the same house and sleep in the same bed, but you're not married, you're bad. You were married, but you decided to get a divorce, you're bad. You had a baby out of wet, you know what I'm saying? So if you're like pointing all the like, if you're pointing the finger at everybody, passing all these judgments and labels, which does nothing but cause divisiveness amongst people, because everyone is pointing the finger. Well, the Pope said that you two are not married, but you're living together and we don't need to talk to you. The Pope said, well, you got divorced and you're never supposed to get divorced. You're supposed to stay married forever. So you're a horrible person and you had a baby out of, do you know what I'm saying? If you're placing that much judgments on people, on humans who aren't perfect at all, because we live in a very imperfect world, a very sinful world, you know what I mean? If you're placing that much judgment, that much pointing the finger, you're causing divisiveness. It's like the church is causing divisiveness. And you said, Michael, the book isn't a book of evil, but it's like, look what has been done thus far. Look what has been done thus far. It has done nothing but divide people and make people prejudice to people and discriminate to people and hate people and be racist against people. That's the church. And now, all of a sudden, he wants this overhaul, this change, which sounds good, but what's really going to come from it? You know what I mean? Because after all these eons of the same, is it really going to be a big change? Kind of like how people are mad at Democrats now, right? Because they're saying, oh, they always talk, but they don't deliver the action. Oh, they promise this, but they don't deliver the action. Oh, they say such and such and such and such, but they don't never do anything. And then now what happened? A lot of Democrats voted Republican. The great shift occurred. The great shift occurred. You know what I'm saying? So I think not just the Catholic Church, but I think the church itself need to be very careful with how it's dictating certain things, because people are paying more attention than they may realize. A lot of people are reading between the lines. And if, they have stepping or doing something that still promotes divisiveness amongst races, that whole divide and conquer aspect, they will continue to lose people. People will continue to fade away from the church. So you got to be careful. People are paying attention. This is not a joke, because it's been a game for a very long time. And people are waking up to the fact that it's been a game for a very long time. So you got to be careful. There is historical evidence that is true. That what is true? Archaeological evidence of Jesus in biblical lands are being uncovered today. I'd like to see it. The Pope doesn't have the authority to rewrite the Bible. Well, no. I read that the Pope is the highest of the high. I read he was like he is the hierarchy. There's no one above the Pope. That's what I read. Now that's what I read. Yeah, he is the holiest of the holy. That's what I read, okay? And I recently read that. But you saying he don't have the authority to rewrite the Bible? Well, he is initiating an overhaul of church history and seminary. That's what he is initiating. And you can look that up. You can Google it. That I actually just spoke about it, actually. in a previous video. And I think I linked the, did I put the links to the articles? I got to go back and make sure I put the links to the articles so people don't think I'm just speaking out my ASS. They actually see that I have some, because I'm getting it from somewhere. I'm not just, making it up. But that's what he's initiating. He's initiating an overhaul of the church history. He can't do that. He will face God's judgment. I mean, what he doing other stuff that, well, he's initiating it, and he's initiating it. He's already initiated it. He just asking, man. Well, it seems like they're getting on board. What do they call it? The dicastery? Is it called dicastery? The dicastery? He's just asking, man. Huh? I mean, I guess that's what everybody do nowadays is just ask man. I mean, I don't know, But I don't know, it's quite fascinating. All of this is quite fascinating to me. And I'm going to keep a very watchful eye out because I definitely want to see how everything unfolds. I initially came on here because I was taken aback by everything, the news coming out with TD Jakes and Duane Youngblood and Shirley, Cesar. Storm, that gospel Storm on the Storm and Row show, he is telling it. He is telling everything. Some stuff I think he shouldn't tell because whatever happens between consenting adults is their business in their bedroom. Like I said, you can be as freaky as you want to be. That's your business. Some things, like he's talking about certain, staff of Tyler Perry being swingers and stuff, but it's like, that's their business. He don't need to talk about that. He shouldn't talk about that. The legal stuff, that's one thing. But people being swingers and swinging and doing whatever, it's like, people have a level of freakiness to them that they enjoy, and that's their business. There's the privacy of their own space. Let them do their thing. You know what I mean? It is what it is. As long as it's consenting adults, let them do what they do. You can't get mad at people for exploring. Exploring and oh wait, is that against the Bible? Oh, wait a minute, because they say, what does it say in the Bible? Is that like considered lust or something like that? Lusty? When like you're a married couple but you swing with another couple, or orgies and I don't know. I guess is that something considered against a bad in the Bible? I want to know. If you follow the pastor when they fall, you will be heartbroken. If you follow the pastor when they fall, you will be heartbroken. Child, who following the pastor? Who following the pastor? I guess a lot of people that are following the pastor, that pertains to, but but is that considered, because they talk about against lust, and but how you gonna talk against? It was a recent pastor that said something, and comedian Shula King told him to sit his ASS down somewhere. He said something about something was just as demonic as having sex. Something was demonic. It's just like, what is you talking about? There has to be a point where you have a level of lust. Like, how do you expect to procreate? How do you procreate if there's no lust there? If there, you know what I mean? Passion, desire, chemistry, lust. How do you procreate? How do you have sex? You know what I'm saying? If there's no level of lust, lust must exist. Look, okay, it is a sin to be a swinger. It is? Why? I've never partaken in it personally. But I'm curious, like, why is it a sin to be a swinger? If it's a married couple and it's another married couple, or it's, a couple cohabitating and another couple cohabitating, and they decide to come together and explore with each other, why is that a sin? Now, I do know, it can cause some complications within relationships when you bring other parties into your bedroom, right? Because, you bring other parties into your bedroom and, your husband might be looking at the other lady and the other lady might be looking at your husband or the lady might be looking at your wife. And then, certain people want to spend more time with one another. And then folks start sneaking around behind the back and spending time with each other, without certain folks knowing. So I know it can get messy, is my point. I know it can get messy. I know it can get messy. But that's the situation you put yourself in, right? If you decide to put yourself in that situation, then that's the situation that you put yourself in, right? I don't think they say everything is a sin. Everything is a sin. Lust is a sin. You have to have a level of lust to have sex. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how you don't. I think it's everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. Because God says to be intimate only with your husband or wife. So only be intimate with your husband. Okay. But some people have a problem following those rules. They do. Some people, that's why I guess there's always people complaining about, cheating in their relationships. Because clearly there's a lot of people that have a hard time following that rule. Okay? Because if everybody followed that rule, there wouldn't be a lot of extramarital affairs on the side. There wouldn't be mistresses, wouldn't exist, But, the breakdown of people's marriages and the things that happen or whatever. I've always been the type of person where I'm straight up, right? I'm straight up. In my last relationship, I was straight up. And I said I'm going to be straight up with you, so you be straight up with me. If you're not straight up with me and I feel like you played me, I'm done. You know what I mean? And so whenever I felt something different, I would make my spouse aware of it, right? If I felt like there was a breakdown in the relationship and I felt like I could possibly want to talk to somebody else, or you're making me feel like I should talk to, like I would talk to the spouse about that stuff. You know what I mean? I wouldn't just go and do it, because some people, they have an argument or, something's out of sorts in their marriage and then they just run and they cheat, and, almost like a get back. Oh, you pissed me off, so I'm going to go and cheat on you. No, well, that's what you wanted to do anyway. Clearly, that's what you wanted to do anyway, because you didn't even talk to me about none of it. You just went and did it, which most people don't talk about it. They just do it, right? But I understand the whole, God says be intimate with your husband and wife. And, I understand the whole monogamy thing. The world we live in, that's just not, it's not realistic. And I'm a realist. I think it's realistic with some people. Some people may not have a problem with it. But just as a whole, people have been breaking that rule forever and a day. And I don't know if it's going to ever be stopped. So, I don't know. I don't have a problem following that rule. I'm more, I'm more into family, like building family, evolving the relationship, building a sturdy foundation for the future, for, next generation and all that stuff. So I'm the type of person that would concentrate on stuff like that. But, there are some people that get into relationships and they're kind of short-sighted and they don't see the long term, or they don't see the long-term vision for legacy or for future or whatever. You know what I mean? Some people, I think, want legacy, but they don't know how to get there, or they don't know how to, attain it or whatever. some people get in relationships and they're just short-sighted. If, they need excitement all the time, and if they feel like, they're not being excited or whatever, they'll go somewhere else for excitement, you know? So in that aspect, I think there are some people that are short-sighted. They don't have the long-term vision of what marriage means and stuff like that, and how to evolve together. Because a lot of times one person evolves in a relationship and the other one doesn't. And then that's where the friction comes in, because you're no longer on the same wavelength. They call it outgrowing one another. And so when that happens, you hope that the other one can catch up, or you hope that you can kind of get on the same page. But in the event that that doesn't happen, then, you got to go your separate ways. And I know you're like, oh, some people say, oh, it's wrong for divorce and this and that. But it's like, if it hurts to stay where you are, why would you stay? It doesn't make sense. You got to be a good example for your kids, right? And you definitely got to be a good example for yourself. So why would you stay where it hurts? A person shouldn't get married if they can't stay committed. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's the whole purpose of marriage, right? Two becoming one, and, for the long term. But I just feel that two people must be able to grow together. If you cannot grow together, like constantly grow together, constantly elevate each other, constantly stimulate each other mentally, physically, all of that, it has to be a constant evolution. And I think, like I said, I think the problem lies when one person evolves and the other one doesn't. And that happens a lot. And a lot of times you can feel really drained in the relationship because you're feeling like you're pulling the whole relationship yourself. You know what I mean? It's like you're the one holding it all together, and the other one is like just coming along for the ride, right? You on the top of the wheel of fortune, and you're basically holding the person on the top of the wheel of fortune with you. They're not doing no work to stay up there. They're not doing no work to help you. They're not doing no work to help it, keep going round and round and up and down and all that stuff. They just hanging on, holding on to you. And while you do all the work to pull both of y'all up the damn hill. Ain't that about a bitch? Excuse me. Like somebody said one time, ooh, it was Mr. Lawson. He said something, who was it? The bus. What was the bus? Something about a bus. And you have to know who should be on your bus and who should not be on your bus. And then he used the concept of the boat. If you the one in the canoe and you paddling and you rowing and you see somebody back there and they got their feet kicked up, just coming along for the ride while you're doing all the work, and that's draining the hell out of you, and you stressed out and miserable and not happy, why would you keep them there? Wouldn't it be easier for you if you just kind of say, okay, it's time for you to go, so that you can move a little bit faster, and, you can have more energy. You're not as drained, and you know what I'm saying, right? It's like that. And it makes perfect sense. And he said that it pertains to family, it pertains to friends, it pertains to coworkers, bosses, it pertains to anybody and any facet of life it pertains to. So it's interesting. But anywho, I don't know. I can't believe I've been on here this long. My other live is pretty long too. A lot of people seem to really like it, so. But yeah, I can go. I love conversations like this. I can go on and on and on, and talk about all kinds of things. I think people would be mind blown by some of the stuff that come out my mouth. Sometimes I'm mind blown by some of the stuff that I think people would be really shocked about some of the things I want to talk about. If I talked about it, people probably be like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. But whatever. I'll keep it there for now. I appreciate everybody being on here, and I definitely appreciate you, Michael. With it's been great talking to you too. Like I enjoyed the feedback and the back and forth, and I think we can have a lot more interesting conversations for sure. Um, I know you're already subscribed to All Baddies Got a Story, but if you're on here and you're not subscribed to All Baddies Got a Story, please subscribe to the channel. I do lives every day, sometimes twice a day, and I also upload interesting content. I also have my artistry page at That Girl Shanda, where all of my music that I composed is original. All of my spoken word is original. It's narrated by my voice, and the music playing in the background is composed by me. A lot of the videos you see on the page is me. Well, all of them is me singing the songs that I wrote and the music that I made. So if you're interested in art, music, and all that good stuff, you should definitely visit my At That Girl Shanda page. And if you vibe with it, subscribe to the channel. I also have a podcast with almost 300 episodes on there. I have a few episodes on this page right here. It's in the podcast playlist folder. So check out some of those episodes, and if you vibe with it, you should definitely click the link in the profile and subscribe to the pod. It's called All Baddies Got a Story, the podcast, of course. Subscribe there. Subscribe. There's other links on this page too that lead to like other content of mine, like my business, Honey Child's Beeswax Candles, and Honey Child's Cafe, which is another artistry page. Wind Lake Real Estate, which is my real estate company, and it just kind of shows. Well, the TikTok shows more. My Wind Lake Real Estate TikTok shows a lot more. It's cool because I do a lot of marketing on my Wind Lake Real Estate TikTok page, and all of the jingles on there I created, and all of the narration behind the ads and the marketing is my voice. So I don't know. It's really, I love to create. I'm a creator. I love to create. I love to create music, and I love to create. It's fun. I'm an artist. I am. I am, but I'm also an intellectual. Clearly, right? So yeah, subscribe, guys. Check me out, and I will see you all mañana on my next live. Thanks for joining, guys. I really appreciate you all being here. I really do. I need to eat dinner. So I'm going to eat. Talk to y'all later. When I'm not studying, I will listen to your live. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, study, so that way you can also have some more interesting stuff to tell me, and we can go back and forth about it. We can go back and forth about it. Okay. Bye, Michael. Bye, y'all.